special welcome to Ms. Garnsveld, supervisor, and Bas Hillebrand, the examiner, the new examiner. I will guide you through my thesis results today and the road towards these results. First of all, I will do this by providing you the practical relevance of my thesis and the academic relevance. I will provide you the conceptual model and the hypothesis I created and the method I used to investigate these hypotheses. I will say something about the results and the implications of these results. Well, first of all, we've seen the rise of social network sites over the past few years. They've been adopted by society on a large scale. For example, you have Google+, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And Facebook is by far the largest social network site right now. It has over 845 million people that use it. And what are social network sites? Social network sites are gatherings of individual profiles, individual user profiles. And these profiles display personal information. And users connect to other users through these individual user profiles. And what you see the last years is that brands and marketeers have also started using social network sites. Specifically also through creating profiles, and these profiles are called fan pages, and these fan pages represent the brand. And this is the object of my study, these fan pages, specifically on Facebook because it's the biggest social network site right now, and brands really use them right now. This is an example of a Facebook fan page. It's the Facebook fan page of Starbucks. There's some basic functions. First of all, the name, profile picture, the like button through which consumers can connect through to the brand. Furthermore, it has a wall, and on this wall messages are posted, and this can be all kinds of messages the brand determines. And through these messages, the brand tries to establish a conversation with consumers. Consumers can like those messages, can comment on them, but can also like messages of other consumers and comment on those messages. And on the left hand side you see sort of sub-pages, and these provide other opportunities for the brand to interact with consumers. For example, interactive games, sweepstakes, and integration with other social media such as YouTube and Flickr. And what you see is brands really have adopted these fan pages on a large scale. For example, when Facebook announced that it would launch these fan pages, within 24 hours, 100,000 companies created a fan page, and among those were Heineken, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, such sort of brands. And I've also seen it at my internship at Social Embassy in Amsterdam, that brands really spend thousands of dollars on the creation of these fan pages and the managing of these fan pages. So how about the academic research on this? There's hardly any academic research on the concept of fan pages. The only research that has been done is on the antecedents of consumer participation. So what factors lead consumers to participate on these fan pages? And this research is very recent, as you can see. But there has not been any research on the effectiveness. So I wondered, what about this effectiveness? I also had it at my internship. We reported to the big brands such as Heineken, Volkswagen, on the amount of fans, the amount of likes, the amount of comments these brands got on these fan pages. But what does this interaction say? What about the effectiveness in terms of academic concepts? And in order to come up with a conceptual model and some hypotheses, I looked at the concept of online brand communities. And online brand communities are really gatherings of groups of people who interact online with each other, and they share the same interest, which is the brand. And it has been shown that these consumers are really passionate and enthusiastic about their brand, and when they interact with each other, they share brand feelings, they share brand experiences. Their consumer behavior improves, and consumer behavior such as their word of mouth or their purchase intention increases. And this is specifically maintained through two concepts, community commitment and brand commitment. And yeah, community commitment is really a feeling of belonging to a group, and brand commitment is really the valuing of the relationship with the brand. And it goes further than any behavioral, any behavior that's positive for the brand. It's really the valuing of the relationship. And what you see is that these consumers share these brand experiences and feelings. Thereby they create a sort of language, they develop symbols, and they really feel they belong to a group and they like the other members. Through this they also enhance their feeling towards the brand. And these two concepts lead them to increased consumer behavior, which you see on the right hand side. So I thought these two concepts would be handy to translate it to my research domain, to the research domain of fan pages. So this is my research question: does consumer participation on a fan page influence the commitment of that consumer towards the fan page and the brand? And I went about researching this via the following hypothesis. I suppose that as consumer participation increased, the feeling towards the brand will increase. So when consumers interact with each other on these fan pages, they share stories and they interact with the brand, their feeling towards the brand will increase. And also their commitment towards the fan page will increase, and this is really a translation of the variable community commitment, which have changed in terminology. So as consumers participate more, they will create more feelings of belonging to each other and like the other members. And I also suppose that as this feeling of belonging, this commitment towards the fan page increases, the feeling towards them will also increase. Plus, I included a moderating variable, which means that these relationships differ according to the brand strength. So if a brand is really strong, for instance, Starbucks, I said something, just an example. I suppose that this relationship would be weaker, would be less effective, because you can imagine that consumers already have some associations with Starbucks, already have some feeling towards Starbucks, and as they participate, they the increase in brand commitment will be less than with a weaker brand. So this was the moderating variable I included. How did I go about researching this? I used an experiment. I used 3x2 between subjects factorial experiment. Well, what this means is I created 6 groups, and these 6 groups differed on 2 characteristics. These were consumer participation and brand strength. And actually the procedure was as follows: that the respondents, they got to read the scenario about a brand, which is either a weak or a strong brand. And the weak brand was operationalized as having a low awareness, low quality, low reputation, and a strong brand, all those characteristics in a strong way. And consumer participation, so they first got a brand description. Then they were asked to imagine that they were browsing on Facebook. I created a fictive brand called Spring Energy, and it's an energy drink. And I asked them to look at the fan page, and afterwards I asked them to imagine that they were participating on this fan page to a certain extent. And this extent was either the no consumer participation, the passive consumer participation, or the active. And passive consumer participation is really the liking of the brand, this getting connected to a brand, and only reading the interactions between the brand and the consumers on this fan page. And the active participation is really connecting to a brand, reading the interactions, and also really interacting with the brand and the other consumers. So after they got these manipulations, they were asked to fill in a questionnaire, and these results came out of it. This is the result for brand commitment, and as you can see, On the horizontal axis you see the three different groups. You have the no participation group, the low participation and the high. Low is the passive participation and the high is the active participation. And what you can see here is that as consumers start to participate, their brand commitment increases significantly. So passive participation from a consumer already is capable of raising brand commitment on this fan page. This brand commitment is even further raised when the consumers start to participate actively. And also this difference between these groups was really significant. You can also see that there are two lines. The blue line represents the weak brand and the green line the strong brand. Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to interpret this effect because the lines cross each other, and this has to do with methodological reasons, but I wasn't able to interpret it. These are the results for fan page commitment. So really they're feeding towards the community. And you can also see again that as consumers start to participate, their commitment towards the fan page, they're feeding towards the other members. Their liking of the other members increases. And this also differs between passive and active participation. Again, in favor of the active participation. So, in conclusion, the first three hypotheses were supported. So, consumer participation on the fan page leads to brand commitment, leads to a better feeling, leads to a feeling of a relationship with the brand. It also leads to a feeling of community on the fan page, and this feeling of community also raises brand commitment. So the first three hypotheses were supported. However, the moderating effect of brand strength, which I included, I couldn't interpret that, so those hypotheses were not supported. Yeah, what kind of implications does this research have? Yeah, the theoretical implications is that this is really the first research, the academic research, on the effectiveness of fan pages. Yeah, and there's also a distinction has been made between passive and active participation, and this distinction hasn't been made in online brand community research, which is a parallel stream of literature. And now it has been made, it has shown that passive consumer participation also works. Yeah, the practical implication is that all marketeers, and I've seen them close by, try to stimulate interaction on the fan page, but now it has been proven that it works. So yeah, marketeers should really stimulate that consumers participate actively. However, passive consumer participation should also be taken into regard when they are reporting on the effectiveness of the fan page, the money that they are spending on it. So these are really the implications. There were also some implications for me, because my thesis was published on several marketing blogs, and a lot of positive online buzz was created. I got a lot of positive reactions from marketeers all over from the practice that they were really happy with my results, because it was the first academic evidence. And I also got a possible nomination for a thesis prize from the Center of Commercial Communication in Amsterdam. But there's still one hurdle I have to take, and that is that the thesis has to be rewarded with an 8. So I hope to accomplish this. No, but the main point I want to reach is that I got a lot of positive reactions, and mainly from marketeers, from several brands, that they were really happy with it, and this has proven that my research has some practical relevance, and yeah, this was very important for me. Yeah, so this was basically my thesis, my research. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, you can ask them right now.